The vast sun-baked landscapes of the American Southwest, which largely encompass modern-day Arizona and New Mexico, hold secrets buried deep within their soil. For centuries, these lands have witnessed the ebb and flow of human history, tales of exploration, ambition, and ultimately of conflict. Now, these lands have revealed an astonishing archaeological find, the oldest firearm ever discovered on U.S. soil. The firearm was brought to what is now Arizona by the infamous Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, a Spanish conquistador whose 1539 to 1542 expedition sought to extend Spain's dominion northward from Mexico. Coronado was already infamous for his role in the subjugation of indigenous peoples in Mesoamerica, and had heard rumors of the fabled 7 cities of gold in the uncharted lands of present-day Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Kansas. With a force of over 1,500 Spanish soldiers, Mexican auxiliaries, and enslaved indigenous porters, Coronado marched north, armed with the latest European weaponry: arquebuses, early muskets, crossbows, steel swords, and lightweight bronze cannons known as hackbutts or hook guns. These portable cannons, designed for rapid deployment, were state-of-the-art for their time, capable of firing devastating rounds of buckshot. In 1541, Coronado's expedition established a small outpost called San Geronimo III, also known as Suya, near the present-day San Pedro River in Arizona. The settlement was meant to serve as a forward base for further exploration and conquest. However, the Spanish presence was met with fierce resistance from the local Native American tribes, likely the Sobaipuri o Odom or their ancestors, who had no intention of submitting to foreign rule. Tensions escalated into open warfare. The Spanish, though technologically superior, were outmaneuvered by the indigenous fighters, who knew the terrain well and employed guerrilla tactics. In a desperate battle, the Spanish were overwhelmed. Forced into a hasty retreat, they abandoned their cannons, armor, and weapons, leaving behind a scattered archaeological record of their defeat. The defeat at San Geronimo III was a significant blow to the Coronado expedition. It highlighted the resistance of the indigenous peoples of the Southwest and contributed to the expedition's ultimate failure to find the mythical cities of gold and establish a permanent Spanish presence. Coronado's grand endeavor, which had begun with such high hopes and significant investment — Coronado himself had mortgaged his wife's possessions and borrowed heavily to fund it — ultimately ended in disappointment and his return to Mexico in 1542, facing accusations and legal challenges. For centuries, the physical traces of this expedition across the American Southwest were scarce. A few scattered artifacts, historical accounts, and educated guesswork helped historians and archaeologists piece together Coronado's probable roots. Finding definitive, undeniable evidence directly linked to the expedition has always been the holy grail for researchers. And that's where the recent discovery in Arizona's Santa Cruz Valley comes in. Archaeologists have unearthed an artifact that provides just such a tangible link: a bronze cannon or wall gun. This firearm was found lying on the floor of what appears to be a Spanish stone and adobe structure, and has been scientifically associated with the Coronado expedition, making it the oldest firearm ever discovered within the continental USA. The firearm itself is a remarkable piece of 16th century technology. It measures 42 inches in length, that's just over a meter. It is constructed from bronze, a copper alloy known for its durability and resistance to corrosion, making it an excellent material for early artillery pieces, especially in the varying climates of the place. The gun's construction method appears to be sand casting, a common technique for creating metal objects at the time. This process involved creating a mold in sand into which molten bronze was poured. This specific type of weapon is described as a cannon or wall gun. In the context of the time, this refers to a versatile, relatively small caliber piece of artillery, often mounted on a swivel, or, as indicated, by the need for a large wooden tripod on a substantial support structure. Unlike larger siege cannons, versatiles were more portable and could be rapidly traversed to track targets. The need for a tripod underscores that this was not a handheld weapon, but a piece of light artillery requiring a stable platform to absorb its recoil and maintain accuracy. The primary purpose of this type of artillery piece on an expedition like Coronado's would have been tactical. They were generally used for defense, mounted on temporary breastworks or defensive walls of a camp to provide covering fire or deter attacks. Offensively, they could be used to breach lighter fortifications encountered during assaults on indigenous settlements, wooden palisades, wattle and daub walls, or even the less substantial adobe structures, softening defenses before infantry assault. While not capable of demolishing heavy stone walls like larger siege cannons, a bronze versatile could still deliver a powerful shot capable of inflicting damage and, perhaps more importantly, instilling fear and disruption among defenders unfamiliar with gunpowder weapons. This is because they fired buckshot, capable of a deadly hail of up to 86 small pellets per round. One of the most compelling aspects of this discovery is the apparent fact that the wall gun was never fired in battle. Researchers examining the artifact found no evidence of black powder residue within its barrel. This leaves a lingering question: Why was such a valuable and powerful weapon left behind, seemingly unused during a chaotic retreat? Several possibilities exist. Perhaps the attack was so sudden and overwhelming that the Spanish defenders didn't have time to load or ready the cannon. The structure on which it might have been mounted could have been compromised early in the assault. It's also possible that, in the urgency of the moment, prioritizing personal survival and the transport of more essential supplies, the heavy wall gun was simply deemed too cumbersome to carry. Or, tragically, the operators of the gun may have been among the first casualties of the Savaipuri autumn resistance. Interestingly, the design of this artifact is noted as simple and undecorated. This detail is crucial for understanding its potential origin. While Spanish metalwork and weaponry from Spain itself during this period were often highly ornate, featuring elaborate decorative motifs, this gun's plainness suggests it was likely cast closer to the source of the expedition, perhaps in Mexico or the Caribbean. The burgeoning colonial centers in the Americas were developing their own manufacturing capabilities, and functional military equipment produced locally might prioritize utility over aesthetics, especially for an expedition venturing into unknown territory where resupply was impossible. The context of the discovery strengthens the link to the Coronado expedition. The firearm was not found in isolation. Within the same archaeological layer and location, archaeologists uncovered additional artifacts that align perfectly with a 16th century Spanish presence of the type associated with Coronado. These included fragments of European pottery, distinct styles imported from Spain or produced in early colonial workshops, pieces of European glass, likely from bottles or other containers, and fragments of European-made weapon components. These could be parts of crossbows, another common weapon of the era, armor fragments, or pieces of other tools or weapons. Finding this collection of artifacts together in association with the firearm creates a powerful evidentiary package, strongly supporting the conclusion that this was a site occupied by the Coronado expedition. The wall gun, now a priceless historical specimen, will undoubtedly undergo further analysis, potentially revealing even more about its construction, its journey to the Santa Cruz Valley, and the precise moment it was left behind. Along with the other artifacts recovered from the San Geronimo III site, it helps to paint a more detailed picture of daily life, logistics, and conflict during the Coronado expedition. But perhaps most notably, this firearm is now recognized as the oldest known firearm within the continental USA. This is a landmark claim. While other earlier Spanish presences existed, like in Florida, and indigenous peoples certainly had their own sophisticated weapon technologies, finding a European firearm, identified and dated within this specific historical context, pushes back the timeline for the introduction and use of gunpowder weapons by Europeans on the North American continent to the early 1540s. It shows the technological disparity that often existed between the European explorers and the indigenous populations they encountered. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below if you have thoughts on the Coronado expedition or want us to cover a specific topic in a future video. Until next time, stay curious and keep digging into history.